Hello, everybody. My name's Laren Runco, and I am an Assistant Director of Admission at Ursuline College. Welcome. We are here to address some of the, changes going on now during this lovely coronavirus outbreak. In the meantime, we're aware in general that people change careers. The average person changes careers about 5 to 7 times, or changes jobs, I should say, about 5 to 7 times during their career. So we've decided, especially with the uncertainty in the job market today, that it's very important for us to provide a service to the community and help you folks and help everybody learn some of the same skills that we offer to our Ursuline students. So we've invited Julie Jones, our career development specialist, to run a little workshop for you today on resume building and teach you some of the valuable tips of the trade that are going to help you with the job search, because maybe your industry is changing all the way around, or maybe your job's going to change. And certainly I know from when I first started in admissions to frankly when I first started at Ursuline just a few months ago, my job has changed immensely from having to work at home, and the skills that I've developed are different today than they were maybe months ago. So it's important that we note the skills we've developed and are developing in our resume updates, and we've invited Julie to help you out with that a little bit. So without any further ado, let's turn the program over to Julie and let's get started on the resume workshop.
I am glad to be with you today. Wait, am I muted? No. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You're good.
Oh, good. Okay. It says that I'm muted on, I'm unmuted by the host. Okay. I'm glad to be with you today because I know that this is a challenging time if we're searching for jobs. And I don't know if you guys are Zoom experts. I'm not. But down at the bottom of your screen, there's a reaction tag, a little tab. I wouldn't mind if you would take a second and answer a question for me with a thumbs up. Can you please hit the thumbs up or a smiley face or whatever comes up? I'm not sure what the options are. If you are currently searching for a job, would you mind hitting that? I think I should be able to see that on your screen then. Maybe I can't. Let's see if it works. Let me see how this works. Oh, so you can see that on mine. Maybe you have to have your screen on to do that. I'm not sure. Oop. Okay, well, we're gonna have a thumbs up at the top of my screen right now because I don't know how to get it off. So we'll run the rest of it like that. So in about 5 seconds, I'm gonna share my screen with you, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what we do at Ursuline, just a little bit, sort of give you an idea of how I work with students. And then we're also going to move into talking about the resume and how important that is in the job search. And since this is a small group, at the end, if you have specific questions about your resume, I'll ask if we can, maybe get unmuted and we can have a little back and forth and answer some specific questions on what you have if you're interested in doing that. So let me get to sharing my screen here. Oh, you need to allow me to share my screen. Can you do that? All right, let's see what I got now. Okay, here we go. Excellent. I got to get to the... And here we go. How do I get rid of the taskbar at the top, guys? Let's see.
It should just, you mean through the Zoom?
Yeah, I need to get.
If you don't hover over it, we can't see it. So.
Okay, I know, but I can't get to share my PowerPoint because I can't get to the PowerPoint thing.
Oh, we can see it from our screen.
Oh, you can?
Mm-hmm. Just got to put it in.
Okay, there we go.
Mode.
Got it.
There
Okay. All right, here we go. So at Ursuline, we have a program called Career Fit, which includes not only what we do in normal career services things like you probably have experienced if you in high school or at a 2-year or 4-year college, But at Ursuline, our career fit program includes an assessment, which assesses someone's interest, aptitude, values, and their personality. And then it all triangulates and connects to in-demand living wage jobs. So the difference in what we're doing and what a lot of people are doing is that most career assessments, and I'm sure you probably have taken one, we all have at one point or another, most of those go basically just on interest. Well, ours includes aptitude as well and values, which are very important, because we know that whatever job we're searching for a career, at least, even for a part-time job, it has to fit who we are. If it doesn't, it causes a lot of sort of dissonance and maybe makes you not quite as happy as we would want to be in our job. So, but the aptitude is very important, because if we only look at what we're interested in, that doesn't really tell us if we can do that job. So for instance, I always tell the story, and I'm going to date myself, and I'm sure no one on this call, on this Zoom, knows what this is, but I wanted to be a solid gold dancer. So that was an entertainment show that took place in the 70s, and they had people that would come on and, you know, dance and sing and all these things. Well, I can't dance. Well, I mean, I took dancing lessons as a kid, but no, I was not going to be a professional dancer. So the interest that I had there did not match my aptitude. So when you're looking to prepare yourself for a job, it's really important that you think about really what are your skills, and then how can you tie that to something you're interested in, and then make sure that that fits your values. If you don't work for a big company, then don't apply to the Cleveland Clinic, right? If you don't want to work for a small company, then you may not want to work at a small retirement home or something like that. So, and sometimes I think we just apply for jobs, not really thinking about the environment that we might be getting ourselves into. So that's a little bit about what we do at Ursuline. We also have 5 essential professional skill courses that our students take, or even our alumni, about teamwork, self-management, communicating clearly, thinking on our feet, and problem solving. So if you're interested in any of those things, I'm going to share my email address with you at the end, and I'd be happy to talk with you further about how you could get yourself assessed, or if you're interested in any of those kinds of skill-related work, which employers are looking for in everyone that they hire, please contact me, and we'll talk about that before we go. But let's now talk, we're going to get right into the resume story. All right, so we have to make sure everyone will have a resume that applies for a job. And now a lot of resumes are, you have to send your resume, and then you have to put all your information in online as well, which to me is a real pain in the neck, but it's technology. But what we want to make sure that we do is really tell our story with our resume. Very few people are going to get to your cover letter until after they've looked at your resume and they're interested in you. They want to make sure that you meet the qualifications. They want to make sure that you have some experience. They want to make sure that your experience fits somehow into what it is that they're looking for. So the cover letter definitely is important, and we'll talk about that toward the end of this, but the resume has to tell your story. And then we've got to really start to think about, before we even get started, what makes you special? Why are you better than everybody else that's applying for this job? And you have to prove that in writing, basically, to have someone look at you. When I was in college athletics, I sat on hundreds of search committees. And we were always looking for, obviously, special people to fit roles, from the university accountant to the assistant golf coach. I mean, you name it. You could have been anything. But what we were really looking for was someone who fit exactly what we wanted. And we're going to talk about how to make your resume look like you fit exactly what they want, even if you only sort of fit exactly what they want. So, because I mean, obviously, we can all learn a job. No one really knows a job until we get into it anyway. So we've got to make sure that what we're writing down on our resume makes us look special and fits what they're looking for and tells a really good story of who we are. So where do we start? Most people will tell you that a resume has to be 1 page. And I'll agree with them if you don't have a ton of experience, or if you don't have a bunch of education to add in. So we want to make sure that we are, if we are new to the job market, we want to use probably a 1-page resume. If we are not new to the job market and we have some very good experience that we really want to explain, I see no problem with a 2-page resume. Number one, you're rarely going to be sending your resume in by US postal mail anymore. Everything that they look at is going to be digital. So you're going to send it to them in an email, you're going to send it to an attachment, and they can just as easily scroll down to look at page 2 as they can to look at page 1. Now, with that being said, we have to make sure that everything that is important is at the top of the resume, or in the, so where they can see it in page 1, just in case they don't get to page 2. We want to make sure that that is telling what we want them to tell them at a glance. You may be in a pile of resumes or in a pile of emails for someone that's 100 people high. So we want to make sure that at the beginning that we are telling them what they want to know right off the bat. Secondly, we've got to proofread our work. When we were looking for a controller, and when I was at Cleveland State University, and there were a couple of resumes that had typos in them, I thought, how in the world are they going to be detailed enough to do the job that we need them to do if they can't proofread their resume? Now, I tell you that, and I just looked at an email I sent out, and I sent an email out to about 8,000 people a couple of weeks ago, and I realized that I had spelled personnel wrong. So how that happened, I don't know. So I need to take my own medicine. But it is extremely important that we proofread our work. And the problem is that we don't always see our mistakes. So it will be in your best interest to have somebody else look at it. That's what I do at Ursuline. I look at all of our students' resumes before they send them out. If they're interested in that, I help them construct them. Obviously, you can use Grammarly, you can use obviously your spell check, but there are a lot of things that you're going to put in that might be acronyms and things like that that might be incorrect that you need to double check. So again, if there's a typo on page 1 of your resume, it's probably going to the circular file. That's I used to take a red pen. My mom was an English teacher, so I was used to that. She was ruthless on my work and would have been so disappointed in my email I sent last week. But with a red pen and circle all the mistakes that I can find, and then decide whether or not that person's experience was better than their ability to send in something that really was proofed. The other thing that we need to think about, and I'll show some examples of this, where this would be, but you need to watch the tense of each of your action verbs. So if you are doing the job now, it's in present tense. If you are finished doing the job, you did the job in the past, everything has to be in past tense, and all those have to align. That is the thing I change the most on resumes, is the tense of anything that's in a prior job, because you're not doing that job anymore. And it seems like a simple thing to say, but it is crucially important that everything is uniform. Well, that goes from the tense that you're talking in, to the size of your font, to the color of your font, and to the structure of your sections in your resume, which you'll see as we get through this. You also never want to use, except in your cover letter, of course, a first person pronoun. So you don't write, I did this, I managed, just managed, or me, or my, or anything that would refer to you in the first person, and obviously not in the third person either. But we want to make sure that you are just using managed, organized, led, all those kinds of things that take the first person out of it. Number one, it saves you words, and number two, that's just the way that it's done. Again, now the next thing on the list here, obviously, is save this as a PDF. Now, this does a couple things. Number one, it doesn't allow someone really to change it, although you can change a PDF very easily anymore, unlike you used to be able to. But it will also get rid of all the squiggly lines for acronyms or things that may not be in your dictionary. So it will make it look more professional. It's easier for them just to pull up and look at. They can't make any adjustments to it. You don't have to worry about anybody changing it. So make sure you save it as a PDF, and then use your name in the file. A lot of people use like an encrypted sort of file name. Mine says J.Jones resume. It's that simple. So yours should be the same, because then if someone loses it in their file, they can pull it up and know, or maybe put your last name first and a comma and then your first name. Something easy for them to be able to get back to. What we don't want to do is make this hard on the employer. We want this to be as easy on them as humanly possible, because the less work you are, the longer they're going to look at your stuff. If it took them 5 minutes to find your resume, they have 5 minutes less to look at it. So these are simple things, but really, really important. And then lastly on this slide, what do we do with our references? Some people will tell you to leave your references off the page because it just takes up more space. I have sent my resumes in, my references in on my resume numerous times because I felt as if my references were eye-catching. I have Jim Trussell, who used to be the football coach at Ohio State, is my #1 reference. So I send that because I think a lot of people know his name in higher education and think, okay, Jim Trussell, we'll call him. So, and gives people a reason to give him a call too, right? So I have done it that way. However, if you don't have to send them in, you can wait for them to ask you for them. The other thing is too, a lot of times if you're applying online, you're going to need to put those in anyway online. So you may not need to take up the space. So this is sort of a judgment call for you. I do have it on the template that I'm going to show you, a structure of what it should look like if you do include your references, but make sure that you sort of think about what is best there. Never use like your boss and then the assistant, like your former manager and then assistant manager. Try to spread that out. When I was coaching, our kids would always come in and they would ask me for a reference, and then they'd go to the office next door and ask my assistant for a reference. And she would always say, no, she's already referring you. I'm not going to refer you to, because we're going to say the same thing. So a wide span of people that know you is best, so that you can get different, so that the employer gets different perspectives. And it shows that you relate to people outside of just the 2 people maybe that you've worked for in the past. So have a good idea of who these people would be. And then what you always have to do is ask them if you can use them as a reference. I got a call about 2 months ago from, it was a California number, and I answered it, which I normally wouldn't do. And they were calling for a reference for a young woman who played for me when I coached at the University of Akron. And she graduated, I think, in 2010. So, and I've been in touch with her some, but not every day. And she didn't tell me that she was applying for a new job. She didn't tell me. So I was sort of caught off guard a little bit. However, I mean, I know her well, so I could, give her a good reference, but I would have preferred that she said, hey, coach, I'm going to send you, I'm putting you down as my reference and expect a call. This is the job that I'm applying for. It's very important that these people know the job you're applying for so that they can address the specific things that that employer is looking for. For instance, Crystal, the young woman I was just referenced, I know about her. I know about her work ethic and her that she's punctual and all these things, but I have no idea how to exactly talk to the job that for which she was applying. It would have given me a better chance to give her a better reference had I known. On the flip side, I got a call the other day from another former player who said, hey, coach, I'm going to put you down as a reference for this job at this place. I would start on this date. These are the things I would be doing. Can you speak to that for me? And that was easy, right? Both kids, love them both. Of course, they're both adults now, but love them both. Same information I have about them personally, but I was able to tailor a better reference for the second young woman because she gave me information. So please let your references know if you're going to use that. And that's something we forget to do a lot. All right. Now, what should our resume look like? First of all, we need to use a logical format and structure. And we're going to literally go on a website that we're going to use. I'll take you through and show you how to use it a little bit as we go through. But you need to have obviously your name, your address, and all your contact information. And then a lot of people put an objective. Now I'm going to go ahead here a little bit and then we'll go back. A lot of people now are using relevant skills. So in my opinion, it's best to put your name and then all of your contact information in one line across the top, as opposed to in almost like an address form, like Julie Jones, Ursuline College, and then down below. It saves you space. It's easy to find. And it's sort of eye-catching. It spreads the paper out and allows people to sort of get their eye off the center of the page, and it just makes it look nice. So below that, you can either use an objective, or now I find that a lot of resumes, if you look at templates online, people are using relevant skills. So here's an example of how you could do that. Just make them even if you can. Bullets, and I actually across mine, I have 3 columns of relevant skills. But choose your best qualities or your skills, like program leadership, expertise in, whatever it might be. Think of, even if you just have 4. If you are fluent in another language, this is a great place to put it. If you are an expert in some computer thing that the rest of us would have no clue how to do. Because remember, people who are hiring you may not be able to do your job that they're hiring you for. They may just be an HR person that knows nothing about the STEM or IT work that you might be doing. So make sure you put, because a lot of times people come in to work with me and they forget to put things on. I'm like, no, you have to put that. That is so impressive. I don't know how to do that. Whenever someone knows how to do something I don't know how to do, like, I'm impressed. Not because there's a lot, trust me, there's a lot of things I don't know how to do, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I wish I could do that. So that's why it's good to talk to someone too about your resume, because sometimes you think it's just, oh, this is what I do. And other people are like, wow, that's what you do? You have to write that down. So I like the relevant skills as opposed to an objective. Everyone knows your objective when you're applying for a specific job. It's going to say that probably in the subject of your email line. It's going to say that in your cover letter. And obviously you're applying to a specific job number normally. So I would forego the objective and go straight to your relevant skills. Tell them what you can do that makes you qualified for this position right off the bat. Now, so let's go back and see what I forget. Okay, we want to make it easy to read. This, you can see, is very easy to read. It's spaced out widely. Obviously, if you look down here under professional or relevant experience, there would be more words there because you would have, administered and operated, and then have a sentence. And it would obviously be a little bit longer here too. There's not going to be quite as much white space in the middle because you're going to fill in these gaps. But the bottom line is you want it to be pleasing to the eye, for lack of a better term. We want it to be organized. Obviously, you can see here that we've got relevant skills, then we've got education, then we've got our work, our relevant experience, whatever that might be. And if you go here, then we've got your other job titles, and then leadership, honors and activities, whatever it might be that you can add there. So we want to make sure it's consistent. I mentioned that. If you use a 11-point font and it's Calibri or New Times Roman or whatever, Times New Roman, whatever it might be, it needs to be consistent through the whole thing. If you italicize something in the next job, you need to italicize it. If you use a comma after which you should, after the city in which you worked and then put the state, you need to keep it that way. You need to keep that way all the way through. If you say, I worked in Akron, Ohio, and you used Ohio, O-H-I-O, then the next time you can't say I worked in Cleveland, Ohio, and use O-H. Those are things that we don't really think about sometimes, but those are the precise things that people are looking for. Again, that goes with keeping it consistent. And then you need to think about what facts can you back up that you did a good job. So for instance, I used all the time when I was in college coaching that we had a 99% graduation rate. So almost every kid, pretty much almost every kid that came through our program and graduated in 4 or 5 years, or was played with us for 4 years, graduated in 4 or 5 years. That was something that I always highlighted because that's a number, it's proof, it shows that you're doing something well. You need to think about those kinds of things. What did you do? You were voted best salesperson or best retail person, 5 out of 6 years or whatever it might be. Whatever numbers you can think of that are something that would sort of demonstrate that you are proficient at something, those need to be included. Anybody can say, great customer service, provided great customer service. Well, let's qualify that. How do we provide, what proves that we provided great customer service? Did you have customers that were repeat customers for 3 or 4 years? Did a guy come in and buy his pants from you every single season because you were so great at that? Did you work at Starbucks and people hunted you down because you made the best latte? I mean, seriously, and then obviously I'm sure your manager would notice these things. So we need to think about how do we qualify the fact that we actually were really good at what we did. So think about those things. Think about adding in numbers when you can. I always wrote, we raised over $40,000 every year to help pay for, to offset the cost of our program, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So think about those things because those are very important. Use facts to qualify your work. Decide on creativity. If you are a graphic artist and you're applying for a job, you might want to have a little fancier resume to show a little bit of your skill. If you are going to be an engineer, then they don't really care about you know, artistic ability. They care about straightforward thinking and being able to solve major equations and all these kinds of things. So you have to just sort of decide on that. But I would always err on the side of boring, to be quite frank. And I don't mean boring, I mean professional, I guess I should say. Not too flashy. You don't need color. They're never going to print that. And sometimes color turns people off. So we want to make sure that we are, if you're going to use a color, I would go with a blue or a warm green or something like that. But we always recommend that we leave the color out. We stick with the black and white, and we just keep it extremely straightforward. I will tell you this, something that's sort of gone by the wayside that lots of our students don't realize. If you are going for an interview, you should always take a copy of your resume for everyone with whom you're going to meet. And it should be on resume paper. I had a student come in not long ago to my office and I said, do you have copies of your resume to take on your interview? And she said, no. I said, well, did you print it on resume paper? She said, what's resume paper? So resume paper is, you can get it at Amazon and you can get it at FedEx, you know, one of those office places or, you know, Target, wherever. But it is important that you still use resume paper when you go in on an interview. I think that is something that's sort of not talked about much anymore. And then if your paper has a watermark, which you hold up to the light and see if there's like a print thing in it, if that's the case, you need to make sure that it's the right direction, that you're not printing your paper upside down on a nice, beautiful piece of resume paper. So that, I don't have anything on the font, on the screen here for that, but that's just something I thought of when I was working with one of the students. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that's something that everyone needs to understand, that this is still something people do. And you still should have a resume for everyone. So you should ask prior to going in, how many people are going to be in the meetings? And then you need to have a copy of your resume for each of them, just in case they don't have one. If they do, you look really prepared. And that's awesome, because I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. So a couple different things. So that sort of got diverted off of my creativity thing, but I was back to the point of using just regular black ink, errs on the side of caution. So make your decisions on that individually, depending on what kind of a job you're applying for. Next, you need to have a purpose for every word. We talked about the fact that a one-page resume is good if you don't have a lot of experience, 2 pages if you do have a lot of experience, but you want to make sure that everything you're saying has a purpose. You know, I change a lot of bullet points for kids, our students, when they come in, because they're really just not saying much. You want to have you want to note something that you did that wasn't necessarily expected. Obviously, if you're a cashier, you handle money. But how do you handle money? And how good were you at handling the money? What was the protocol that you had to follow? Or did you set new protocol for something? Did you make a recommendation to your boss that then they took and implemented as a new requirement? So think a little bit beyond just the little things that you think are, you know, your job, and expound upon those a little bit to make them relevant to the next level or wherever you're going to be going. So make sure that you have a purpose for every word. Don't just write, you know, just something just because you're trying to take up space. No, I am going to show you as we go through this where you can literally go to a site, type in what you want to be, and it'll bring up bullet points for you, which is awesome. Because I think that's the hardest part of writing a resume, is writing what you have done. But we don't want to waste words. We don't want to waste space. We want it to be concise. So keep it that way. Think about who will be reading the resume. So is this someone, for instance, I always told our players that they would come in and they would, you know, have all their piercings in and their tattoos showing, all these things. I would say, if you're going to Key Bank for an interview, you need to remove those things and cover up your tattoos, because someone my age is interviewing, not someone your age. Fine, you have tattoos, fine, you have piercings, not a big deal. Don't care about that. But if you need to think about who it is, who's your audience. So if the audience is my age, we're going to look at things differently, right or wrong. This is not a qualifying statement to say that people my age think better than younger people. No, that's not the case. But we need to think about who is reading it. Is it an HR person? Is it someone who has the technical skills necessary to do the job that I'm doing? We also need to think about, is the computer reading your resume first? And we'll cover that when we get closer to the end here. But we need to make sure we're using the right words so the computer doesn't just kick your resume out. For instance, if you apply to USA.gov jobs and you don't have something listed, you don't even make it to the next spot. One of my former players just applied to the Secret Service. She right now is a police officer in Akron, and she just had an interview with the FBI not too long ago, but now she applied for the Secret Service and it said she wasn't qualified. Well, I can guarantee you that it's not that she's not qualified. She's gone to a police academy. She's been a police officer for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and she's got everything that she needs. She has a degree. So, but what did she not put in her resume or in her application that got her kicked out of the first round? So that's something we're going to be looking at here once we can sit down and meet to find out how she can go about doing this again. So we need to think about who's going to read it, a human being, a computer first. If you're going through Indeed, you need to make sure that you do it one way. If you're going through and you're actually sending it to the Cleveland Clinic, it may be a little bit different. So we'll talk about how to sort of talk about that algorithm thing here in a little bit. Again, we talked about keeping it consistent. Make sure everything is where it needs to be. And it looks like I have something that we our little review there. Okay, so back to this. Here's the actual resume. If you are just graduating from college, your education needs to go first, just like this. If you have already had a job as a career, then your relevant experience or your work experience should go above your education. That's how we look at it. The reason, if you're just a new college graduate, you probably don't have a ton of experience except for an internship possibly, and then some other jobs that you've done as you've gone through high school and college. So we want you to say, okay, I got my degree from Ursuline College, and this is, and I went to this high school, and I still have our students put their high school on their resume if they're a new graduate, because you never know who's on the search committee or looking at resumes that maybe went to a high school near you or to your high school for that matter. And guaranteed that if someone has a connection to you, they're going to look at your resume longer. I got my first job in college because I had 3 people on the search committee that went to the same college that I went to. So I had really good chance of getting this job because we had mutual experiences, we had mutual connections, and it benefited me greatly. It was a wonderful experience, but them knowing where you went to school is important. Obviously, if you need a degree, you should put that first if you just got out of college, because that qualifies you for the job, even though you don't have a ton of experience. On the flip side, if you have experience and you can list those jobs that you've had, you're changing jobs, you're changing careers. For instance, at Ursuline, we have a program where people with a degree come back to get their teaching degree. And I've helped a lot of those students write their resumes. We tie everything from their prior job. For instance, I had a woman who worked for Coach, the people that make the handbags and accessories. And she also worked for Hallmark, and she had all this great in Saks Fifth Avenue, had all this amazing experience, but now she wants to be a teacher. So we put anything that in training we put first, and anything where she made plans and did anything that you think would relate to teaching. That's how we use that experience. We then put her degrees after all of her experience, because it was sort of a foregone notion that she already had a degree to already have these other jobs. So, and we wanted them to know that here, hey, I'm going to be a great teacher because of these things. However, we did put her student teaching first and then all of her other stuff, because that was her most recent job. You need to put your highest degree first. So if you have a master's degree and then your bachelor's and then at that point, after a while, you don't have to put your high school in there anymore. You need to put your most recent job first, no matter if it was part-time or full-time. That needs to go now. and then everything else below it. If you are just getting back into the job market because you've taken some time off to raise kids, or you took some time to travel the world, or whatever it might be, you can explain those things in your cover letter. Or, for instance, one of the students that went back to get her teaching degree, she took time off to raise her children. So we put in there that she was the manager of her home during this time. She was taking classes during that time, but more than anything, she was raising her children, which is as important as any job anyone will ever have. So we don't want you to be dinged for not being in the job market for a little bit amount of time just because you were at home raising your kids. Or if you were out gallivanting around the world, like a student that played for me, she went to Madagascar, literally was for a year, went all over the world. And so on her resume, she put down some of her experience that I forget what she called it, but some kind of a world traveler, and then listed a few things of what she did during that time. Even though it's not a job, it was her gap year between this time and when she got between one job and another job. So we want to make sure that we account for time. And if you have questions on how that might happen, I would be happy to answer those questions and sort of help you figure out how to fill that in. Obviously, then we go on to the next job and the next job and the next job. And then we have, after that, you need to write down anything that you have done that is not necessarily related to your job. Are you a community volunteer? Do you belong to a church? What have you led? What have you been involved in? What did you do? What titles have you held outside of your job titles? For instance, I'm the chair of a board through the Akron Community Foundation, and I obviously have that on my resume as something else. For instance, this might be something that you would not even think about. I put on my resume, I had breast cancer about almost 20 years ago. I run the Race for the Cure every year, and I've won that numerous times. So I write that down, right? So, Susan G. Komen, Race for the Cure, survivor, winner. So it shows some resilience. It shows some competitiveness. So think about some of the things that you've done that you may not even think might go on a resume. So it could be, you're the captain of your high school volleyball team. Even if you're 25 years old, good for you. Put it down, because that's leadership. People want to see that you took initiative. Maybe you were the student body president, or you led the 4-H club, or whatever it might be, or you were part of any of those things. You're in a National Honor Society, whatever it might be. You need to write those things down. You're on the dean's list 4 out of 5 times. You were at your job. You were a leading trainer, even if you didn't put that up in the into your job description, which you probably should have. Maybe there's something else you needed to add on. Maybe you organized something outside of your job for all of your teammates at work that benefited one of your other coworkers. So think outside the box. Think of how you contribute to the world outside of your job, and write those things down in bullet points. Put the years if necessary. If it's an ongoing thing, then just leave it as is. So that's something I think is very important. Notable leadership positions, honors achievements, community service, volunteer work, memberships, whatever it might be. Maybe you're the member of an apprenticeship group. Maybe you are the member of and some kind of a community group throughout. You belong to the Shaw Jewish Center, which was someplace I know that my neighbors belong to here. So you just think about anything it might be. It's good to show them a little bit of who you are outside of just your job descriptions that you wrote, things that were really sort of expected of you. However, hopefully in those bullet points, you put stuff that was like way better than just stuff that was expected to make sure you're standing out. On to references quickly. This is a simple way. If you're going to add your references, first name, last name, what is their title? What business or institution are they from? And then their business address, unless they allow you to use their personal address. You need to ask them for this. You also need to ask them if you can use their phone number and their email. And I would always put both, because a lot of people are going to contact through email as opposed to through, through a phone call. Hold on, the sun is in my eyes. Let me move this. There we go. Nice to have the sun in Akron, Ohio, but I'm getting blinded. So I have 3. Normally people ask for 3. I think 3 isn't sufficient. If you have someone else you'd like to add, go for it. You can have 6. There's really nothing saying that you can only have this many references. So 3's the minimum. 6 would be fine. I would not go to 10. That's a little overdone. I think that might seem a little too much. So just something to think about now. Okay, real quickly here, we're going to click on this link and hopefully it will work. And it does. Awesome. This is a great website for helping you construct your resume. And really, you probably could have not listened to me at all and gone to this and done it all yourself. However, obviously there's some things that I mentioned that you're not going to learn.
Hey, Julie, we can't see that right now.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh.
I don't know whether your other, might be over your other one.
Yeah, hang on. Let me see what I can do to new share. Oh, here it is. Can you see it now or no?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes, we can see
now.
it.
So can you see your documents?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Larry. I don't know what you guys can see and what, because I can sort of see myself over on the side, which is slightly annoying. But you guys have to. Hopefully you can't see me at all. So anyway, so this is called resume-now.com. We direct all of our students to this. It is a paid service, but you don't necessarily have to use it as a paid service. You can use it for ideas and then just type it into your own Word document. I'm also very willing to share our template with you if you send me an email at julie.jones@ursuline.edu. I have a template, the one that you looked at there, that I shared on the screen. It's very simple, it's very direct, it's very straightforward. All you have to do is type your stuff into it. Happy to share that with you. But I literally, when I redid my resume not too long ago, that template was inspired by what came off of this website. So if you go to, I'll open this resume here, I think. And I'll show you exactly what you can do with this that I think is really awesome. Okay. Sorry, I have to go through this in order to get where oh, nope, that's not what I want to do. We do not want to pay. See here, you go, you can get it full. I think I paid for it for a month just to get my resume done. So I would have some samples to give the students, but basically, you don't have to do that. So you can, this obviously helps you fit your font size, your heading size. You can pick your template. There's a million different templates, as you can see. One that maybe fits you different than another one. All these different options are there, which is really nice. That one's sort of, I wouldn't necessarily go with that one. That's a little bit boring. But this one obviously has what I recommended with all the contact information up at the top. But what we want to look at more than anything is how these skills, the skill thing works. So you can go down and choose. So I put in, you can put in any job here. Sales manager. All of these skills come up, and then you can cut and, all you do is just move one over. You click on it and it moves it over to your skills, which you can see mine: program leadership, recruiting expert, blah, 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 all these things. So, but this is for sales manager. These are all the things a sales manager would do. So they're all right there. And then you can sort of look and say, oh yes, that's me, that's me, that's me. And then move it over and then cut and paste it back into your Word document. So that's a really cool feature. The best feature of the whole thing is this. So if you get to professional experience, you can put in here, I was obviously a head softball coach. We'll go again to a sales manager. And what comes up then are a plethora of job bullet points of what sales managers do. So you can look through all these and say, develop and implemented new sales strategies to update product lines. Yes, I did that. Or yes, I did this. Whatever it might be, this helps you write the bullets. At least can get you started in thinking about what you should include as bullets. And then again, just move them over, and then you can just cut and paste or copy, and then move it right out of this and put it into your Word document. So I'm sure Resume Now will be glad that I'm showing you how to do this. But the bottom line is you can build your own resume very simply, very professionally, and without a lot of work, because this to me is definitely the hardest part, figuring out what to write on the darn bullets. Again, all these choices, and then you can just change if maybe you don't get it as sales manager, maybe a sales leader. There we go, district sales, whatever it might be. And then it brings up other things that might be bullet points for that job. So I highly recommend that you check this website out. It also, again, gives you all these different templates, and you just, you can cut and paste and go that way. And let's go back to this share. Then the same thing is available for your cover letter. So you can go to coverletter-now.com, and it gives you templates for a cover letter as well. I won't go into that, but you get the sort of drill. It will walk you through and ask you to write down what your top skills are. It asks you to, or click and choose. It asks you to write down what kind of job, or click what kind of job you're looking for. And then it asks you to talk about a few other things, like it gives you all these different things, values to choose from. And you click on all these things, and then it brings up paragraphs that at least can get you started on a cover letter to think about what you might need to include for the job for which you're applying. So 2 great tools that are simple and can be free if you just sort of play around with them a little bit, or if it's worth it to you and you want it to look beautiful, pay the $13.99 for the 1 week or whatever it might be, and get yourself a beautiful resume that you can just save in a Word doc, and then you have that to update, until you don't want to update your resume anymore. So either way, this has great access to things that can help you look professional and detail-oriented and excited about the job for which you're applying. So just some recommendations there on how to do that. Again, if you want to stand out and you want to get through the initial search, you have to figure out how to give companies their words back to them. I'm going to try to share this again. We'll see what comes up. This is just an example of an Indeed search. Let me new share you. Let's see, where is that now? Hold on, bear with me for one moment. Here it is. For instance, here is a job description or a job posting for a registered nurse, licensed practical nurse. And it says right here, at Stillwater Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation, we are committed to providing individualized, compassionate, and innovative healthcare services that inspire each resident to achieve full and meaningful life they deserve. Use those words. Use them in your cover letter. Use them in your bullet points. Use them. Give their words back to them. Obviously, it's important for them that they are sharing this with you because they think this is what delineates them from the next guy in practical in residence for older folks, residents. I can't think of what it's called right now, retirement homes, whatever it might be. So use those words and give them back to them. Here's the jobs. This is what the job duties include. If you've had any of these jobs, then you need to write them down, bullet point them, so that as they're going through and the computer's sort of looking for an STNA experience, boom, you're in the search. So go and with a fine-tooth comb, look through the job description, and again, pull the words out. If you're applying to a school district, look at what their mission statement is. If you're applying to a university, look at their mission statement. If you're applying to the Cleveland Clinic, world-class care, right? Work that in somewhere. So we all know what people's taglines are. They put a lot of money into those. They're hoping you pay attention to them. So use that. Learn as much as you can about what you're applying for before you even before you sort of make the resume for that specific job, and make your resume for the specific job with these words. Just some advice that will help you get through to the next round. All right, lastly, here are some places that you can find people who are, look for employers that are hiring right now. This website here, I highly recommend that you write this down. It's Greater Cleveland Partnership in Gear, basically, so gcpingear.com. These are employers that are hiring now for jobs, not just part-time work to work at Amazon. They have full-time positions. We think right now the economy is in a complete stall, which no doubt it is, and a lot of people are looking for jobs, but there are jobs out there. And instead of sitting around thinking there's nothing out there, let's go look and see how we can make our resume fit and our experience fit. Because you know this, you can learn a new job. So we've got to make sure that you can use the experience that you have to make it look like you already know the job. And then when you get there, you use your experience and you learn what you need to learn, and you become a great employee that way. The other place you can look, if you look at, you know that the governor has been on every day at 2 o'clock explaining all those things. Well, he also has at ohio.gov and the coronavirus website, they have jobs for people who are hiring right now as well. And then you can always go to the Ohio Means job site. There's a ton of information there that can show you, you know, how to look for a job. There are ways you can practice interviewing there. It's really nice website for all things job search related. So just a little bit of information on what might be out there now. Check these out tonight or tomorrow when you have some time. If you're in the process of looking for a job immediately, you might just find something here. I was surprised at everything that was there. And I've shared this with our students, and hopefully our graduates are taking advantage of this. So if you want to beat them to the punch, you might want to get on it. So again, this is your story. Make sure you're telling it. Tell it with their words, tell it with your words, tell it with your experience, tell it with your detail, tell it with organization, and make sure that you are tailoring everything you do to the person that you're sending it to. Make sure that you write the right person's name. I can't tell you how many times I got emails when I was in college coaching for the coach that coached at Cleveland State. So Kent State, I would send it to her and say, here, Coach Linder, I got an email for you today. And the kid was looking to come and play for us when I was at the University of Akron. So at first I was like, okay, you're not even detailed enough to write the right name at the top of the resume or the top of whatever you're sending me. So make sure you're doing that. It's important that you address to whomever it is. And if you don't have someone to address it to, just write the word subject with a colon, and then write whatever it is, write your name. Julie Jones, applying for open position, ... You don't have to address someone directly. It might just be, even on a cover letter, you might have a subject line just like you would on your email. That is a highly, highly acceptable way to get around trying to figure out who you're directing something to. So just some things to think about. Liren, do you want to open it up for questions or?
Yes, indeed. We are here to take any questions you guys might have. I see Molly, Suzanne, and Kelly have their things muted, but if you guys want to unmute and ask any questions of Julie or of me,
or you can put it in the chat.
Before we continue. What's that?
They can put it in the chat as well.
They could do that as well, yes.
Hi, Molly here.
Hi, Molly.
Hi. I guess this is specific to resumes, and I've heard some people in the past suggest if there is kind of a gap in your resume to not always list the year. So like I graduated high school in 2011. And I can't think of anything specific, but I do think there's a couple gaps in my resume. Would you still include years?
I think we usually do to have people include years, yes, okay. But it depends on how big the gap is,
right? And
how young you are, really. So, and how far away you are from that gap. So how far away? So let's just talk about it, Molly. How far away are you from the gap? Are you a year away from the gap, or is it a gap between high school and a job, high school and college, high school and
Yeah, high school and college.
Oh, I think you're okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and put your years.
Okay.
Yes. Because,
Thank
you know,
you.
the bottom line is if you didn't go to college right out of high school, that's okay. I don't think that's an issue. I really
Gotcha.
don't. Yeah. All I think about when I put dates is I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to know how old I am.
Exactly.
I
I feel you.
had also heard it the other way of people encouraging people not to because it's ageism.
Right. Well, what is a good, that is something to think about. I would say this, whatever you feel comfortable with each specific job, just make sure you're consistent. If you put years, the only reason that it is important to put years at times is because if someone knows someone that worked at that place during the time that you were there, it may be a benefit for you. If you don't think it's going to be a benefit, if you don't think that's going to be a benefit, then maybe you don't put the years. However, if you do put, say you worked at, I don't know, the Cleveland Clinic, just for lack of, because I'm going to the Cleveland Clinic with my dad, it's on my mind. So say you work there and you need to make sure you put how many years that you work there. If you don't put the year, right? You don't say you worked there for 5 years because that shows, you know, longevity, that shows commitment, that shows all those things. So that's the only thing that I think you might be lacking if you don't put years, is the ability to show people that, hey, I was here for a really long time and you can count on me because I'm going to stay. So it's just something to think about. I don't think you can go wrong either way. I always have our students put, no matter, because we have a lot of what you would call non-traditionally aged students at Ursuline. And we've got people that graduated from high school years ago and now are getting their degree and they've got some work experience in between there, but we put the years and we just sort of hope for the best. But I can see the ageism issue possibly for young people too.
Yeah.
They can look at you if you're too young.
Julie, hi, this is Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
I graduated from Ursuline in 2000, so that shows my age.
You got nothing on me, Kelly.
But I graduated in the travel and tourism program, which, you know, is no longer really in existence, and obviously been working in that industry for 20 years. And, you know, this is very beneficial for me because it's given me some time to reflect on how I want to change careers. Obviously, with this COVID, my industry is going to be very impacted.
Mhm.
And I don't foresee myself going back to work anytime soon. So I've had multiple jobs. I've kind of worked my way through, but I guess, you know, needing some help as far as my skill sets, you know, looking at what job should I be looking at? You know, I have some other interests, but I'm not really sure. I appreciate you kind of saying, you know, like you talked about solid gold. I know that solid gold dancer. Like,
Thank you.
but, you know, the things that you like and what you're able to do are totally two different things.
Yes.
So I have a mindset of what I think I want to do, but I don't know, maybe I don't have the skill set for that.
Well,
So-
you know what, Kelly, here's what you need to do. You need to send me an email so we can connect, and I'll put you through this career fit program. It's available to our alums as well. And you can take the assessment, and then it's going to connect you to a bunch of different 25 in-demand careers that would fit with what it is that you excel in. So I would be happy to get that information to you if you want to shoot me an email
Absolutely.
later tonight or whatever. So julie.jones@ursuline.edu. And if I was smart, I would have put it on the screen, but I didn't think about
We
that.
have that slide.
Oh,
Okan,
okay.
if you want to hit the stay in touch slide.
I'll stop. Yeah, I'll stop.
Yeah, I think Julie needs to stop sharing.
There you go.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kelly, I'd be happy to
Yeah.
work with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about, you know, some of the things you said about how do you stand out? And there are some things that come to mind, but there's not a whole lot of, pretty much it's all the same. I worked in the food and beverage, like catering sales. I don't like the sales part, but I have meeting planning and I'm very good at that kind of stuff. And most customers would be repeat and stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out, where do I start?
Right. Right.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
So, okay, I will definitely send you that. And I can also share my resume then, what I do
Yes.
have currently. So
Yeah. And Molly, if you're still there, if you'd like to send your resume, I'd be happy to look at that too. So feel free to send that over, and I'll look at it. I've got my next 2 days are a little bit crazy, but Thursday slows down. So if you give me to the end of the week, I can get information back to both of you if
Okay.
you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Well, Julie, I'll tell you, as someone who, I think I mentioned earlier that I just started working at Ursuline probably for about 6 to 8 weeks before the coronavirus hit. And prior to that, I had been out of higher education for some years, but even before that had spent 20 years in. So I can relate very well to some of the questions Molly was asking, and even Kelly, about how to change fields. I mean, I had done everything from, whether it was retail management, and how can I apply the skills I developed there back into higher ed administration, was interesting. So I could relate very well to much of what you were saying about your student teacher tying in their past jobs to how that would fit a teaching model. So it's everything you said was so relevant to what I have just been through. And my concerns, like Molly, were, do I show my age? Because I might look like someone who's too old to invest in a new career, as opposed the opposite form of ageism than she was referring to. So there's a lot there. And Kelly, something I was reading during my job searches is that women and men approach these things a little bit differently. And I read somewhere that women generally will not apply for jobs unless they feel they meet almost all the job requirements that are listed there, whereas men feel more comfortable and they often apply for jobs where they only meet half of the job requirements that are listed. So I think we have a common natural social tendency perhaps to sell ourselves a bit short.
Yeah.
So it's hard because we feel very vulnerable in sending those things out. And it's very frustrating because in today's marketplace, you don't always hear that they received your resume. You don't always hear that you're not getting these jobs. So it's a very frustrating time. And you need to remind yourselves that nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
I mean, it's not personal half the time, even though it feels very personal when it doesn't work out.
Lauren, it's interesting too. And my brother-in-law is a high-level salesman, and he switched jobs, and then he got downsized out of another. He switched jobs and then got downsized, and he applied for all these things. And I tried to get him connected to all the people I know in the area, and then he wasn't following up. I told him, Joe, do you think people are just going to come to you? So you need to follow up. So whenever you send something, you have to follow up. Whatever that means, research how you can get into somebody to say, hey, did you get this? Because you may be the only person that does that, which is going to move your resume to the top. The other thing is too, Lauren, you are exactly right, that when men will apply, if they can literally do 1 or 2 things out of the job market, and we think we have to do 9 out of 10. And that's why I said, you need to look at the job description, pick the things that that you can make sound like you can do that job exactly, and be the perfect candidate. And then when you get there, learn the job.
Absolutely.
Because you have these skills that will allow you to learn and progress. Just because you have not done X, Y, and Z doesn't mean you can't do. And you're going to learn how they do it anyway. Everyone does things different. I left one big institution and went to another, and I had done the same job for 13 years. And I remember sitting in my office thinking, I don't even know where to start. And it was the same job. So, even, I had the skills. I knew exactly how to do certain things, but I didn't know how to write a PO. I didn't know how to do, I didn't know how to use the phone. So we're going to learn as we get into our job anyway, and we've got to fake it till we make it. So
Yep.
That's some advice I really have, is that men are much better at faking it until they make it. And they make it when they do that. And so will we, if we're willing to take that step and get out of our comfort zone. That's what a lot of this is just stretching out of our comfort zone and realizing, like you hear, I had a kid that played for me who's in sales. She's like, oh, got turned down again today. That gives me one person closer to someone who's going to say yes. I'm like, oh, you are awesome.
Exactly.
Right.
And
So
it's that,
that's the truth. We're just eliminating things that are not going to come our way. And then it gives us attention to the things that can be fruitful for us. So
right.
I hope this was worth, I hope you did pick something up. And again, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, I think this has been fantastic. And I hope the 3 people that were here have gotten, a lot of information and find power and strength in that vulnerability to put it out there. And I wish everyone the best as they continue. Like I said, we at Ursuline are trying to provide you with some of the same, skills and services that we offer to our currently enrolled students. And in this marketplace, it's hard for some people who haven't gone to school to even think about investing in going back to school. But if going back for a bachelor's degree or starting a bachelor's degree, going back for a degree in a different field than what you've done, or even pursuing graduate studies, all I would do from the admissions standpoint is not give you a big admissions spiel here, but really just ask that if education is part of what you need or want to continue in the new field that you're thinking about, please keep Ursuline among your choices and give us a contact. And, someone like me in admissions or Julie in career services can definitely help you to meet that next dream, whatever it is. And if there's any questions still, we're here to help. And if not, I hope you have a wonderful day. And Julie, if you have any closing statements you want to make, that's more than happy.
No, I appreciate your time, and I'm glad that you're taking the time to look at this. This shows your commitment to the next thing that comes your way. And if you're willing to sit and listen to this for an hour, then I would say you are on the right track already, and you're one step ahead of everybody else who is watching Netflix.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
And we hope that this works out for you and find it very helpful. And hopefully you'll keep Ursuline in mind in the future. Thank
Great.
you.